Welcome back to New Money. We're discussing short-term insurance. My guests are Edith Teixeira, just to remind you, and I'm getting quite pleasure saying this, of the non-life insurance division of the National Financial Ombud Scheme, South Africa, and obviously Craig Boger. If you'd like to email, you can send your emails to info@anchorcapital.co.za. Before we went on air, we were talking about cancellation of policies. Now, the difficulties of cancellation of policies, are you warning clients, you've put in too many claims? Is this something you would say to clients? Look, but I thought it's still a condition, even if you don't claim on a policy, because it says any claims whether submitted to insurers or not.
Absolutely. So correct. The question is, have you had any claims or losses where you've reported it to your insurers? So again, very key that the broker underwriter needs to work with the client and disclose as accurately as they can to the underwriter in terms of the claims or losses that they've had over that period, be it 3 years or 5 years. Bryan, when a policy is cancelled, it is very serious, because obviously when you go to a new underwriter, that's the first question that they ask: has your policy ever been cancelled or refused for any reason? And if the answer is yes, most underwriters will decline cover or decline even quoting. So again, very important is one needs to make sure that they manage their claims as best as they can. Obviously, to work together with your broker, your insurer, and try and see how best, and discuss it with your broker. You've got a claim, is it worthwhile submitting it? What is my excess? And how does it work? What are going to be the consequences of my portfolio going forward? And those are the type of questions you need to discuss, or should I say, with your client, and just work closely to see how best you can avoid that cancellation coming from the underwriters.
Edith, I asked you that in 2 questions, so maybe I'd just like a clarity. Do you get people who write to you and complain, say, our policy's been cancelled?
Absolutely.
And we're not talking about now fraudulent, just because they had too many claims. What can your office do?
So again, we look at how the question was posed, especially if it's in the space of direct marketing without a broker. And we also interrogate, is it true, were there 5 claims and the insured only disclosed 3, and over what period of time? Because sometimes the way that these facts are conveyed to us, or the information is conveyed to us, is not actually factually based, and we're able to, in some instances, reverse the decision because it wasn't actually 5 claims or losses, it was 3 over that period that they were asked. So we can interrogate, we can just make sure that what the insurer is basing its rejection on is correct, and give at least some peace of mind in that regard to the consumer. But those are tough ones that we can't always assist.
Edith, I mentioned increasing claims over the last 2 years of 26%. Is your office expanding, or the same? Have you got more employees?
So as a result of this amalgamation of the 4 schemes, we've had to be very careful not to employ too many people, with the fear that there may be retrenchments down the line. So no, we haven't increased our especially adjudication team. We've had to keep the numbers the same despite the increase in the volume of complaints. So we are under some pressure in terms of the volumes, which just seem to be going up all the time.
And how do you keep customers informed? I mean, once a claim's been lodged, the insurance company has repudiated the claim. Craig, you've done your bit, and now you can't. So you'll say, will you help the client firstly to formulate their claim to the Ombuds Office, Craig? If you have.
Absolutely. If we need to, and there's a request come from our client, we'll be gladly to assist.
You'll help.
Absolutely.
Okay, now you get the complaint. Now, it could take 3 to 6 months.
It could. So we keep them informed at every step of the process, where they are in terms of the adjudication process. Every time we receive a piece of correspondence from the one party, we convey it to the other, just to keep the Audi Ultram, partum principle very alive at every step of the way. And so complainants are informed, as well as insurers, of every stage that the complaint is at.
Yeah, because I'm a firm believer, you get positive and neutral communication, yes or no, but it's what we call the neutral communication, where people don't know something is happening, and that's so very important. Let's go to some of our emails. Rudolph in Claremont, and this is for you, Edith, he says, what confidentiality measures are in place to protect my privacy and sensitive information throughout the process?
So obviously, as an organisation, we have to comply with POPIA, the Protection of Personal Information Act. We are registered. We have the information officer and deputy. There are various levels of authority and access to information. But as a user of our services, you also give us the consent to use some of that information in order to try and resolve and assist you in resolving your complaint. So obviously, without some of that information, we cannot resolve a complaint, but we have processes, we have systems in place to make sure that they are as protected as possible and that we try and prevent any kind of attack or leaking of information. And if there is a breach, we are required, and we do report to the information officer the information regulator. For example, we've shared one customer's details with another, not when there's been, we've never had an incident where there's been a mass leakage of information. But when we do have a breach like that, we inform the party straight away. We inform the party that has received the information incorrectly to delete it, and we also let the information regulator know.
Craig, there's an email from Julian in Parkview. He says, with problems at our ports and many goods being transported on our roads, we have a large fleet and we are currently doing our budgets for the next 12 months. How is this going to affect motor premiums going forward?
So, Bryan, motor premiums are obviously increasing year on year. That's on the back of increase in parts and spares, the pricing affected by the rand dollar. So, how do you avoid those type of increases? Well, again, managing your fleet as best as you can. I'm not too sure how that fleet is structured. It might be on a deposit premium, various structures, but the advice is just to keep managing the costs of claims as best as you can to try and manage those increases. Delays at ports is obviously when you're dealing with stock, there's an accumulation risk at the ports, and my advice to clients out there, people out there that have stock and are importing stock, is just to make sure that your accumulation limits at the various ports is discussed with your broker or your advisor to make sure that you have enough cover in the event that all your containers arrive at the same time because of these delays.
And Craig, his question was, should he be putting budgets in? What sort of increase should he be expecting over the next 12 months? I know you'd have to see the claims experience and everything, but just a thumbs up. So,
Bryan, we're seeing anything north of 7% to 8% upwards. And again, that's depending on claims and all those type of variables.
Yeah, I know you can't commit to that. This one, it's an interesting one because it's from Judy in Westville, and it's actually a personal email. She says, I'm an attorney, and I just want to understand what motivated you to pursue a career as an ombudsman, particularly in the short term.
Well, I think like a lot of us, we end up in insurance and we carve out a path. And I started working in the industry. About 15 years I spent in the industry. And
on the underwriting side with the insurance company?
Claims, yeah.
Okay, so you've been on the other side, you know it goes on.
Yeah, on the other side, legal manager and dealing also with addressing complaints from the Ombuds office, and that's how I got to know the office itself. And when there was a vacancy, I thought, this is interesting work. I like the concept of fairness and equity and how one goes about applying that, in practice. So that's when my interest was tweaked, and I applied for a position then as an adjudicator, and then I worked my way to CEO.
The people who work for you and under you, have they also had this type of experience, being brokers and being working for an insurance company, understand the difficulties that you have? Because a broker's job, Craig, as you know, is to try and get claims settled. I mean, that's what, it's easy to take the premium, whereas, you spend a lot more time when you're selling investments or life insurance with the client, and then you don't have to do so much admin thereafter, whereas in the short term, easy to insure, but the problems come afterwards.
Absolutely, Bryan, and that's one of the things we pride ourselves at our companies at underwriting at inception, making sure the insurance companies understand what they're underwriting. It's our responsibility as brokers to make sure that we tick all the right boxes. And again, very, very important is to make sure that that underwriting at inception is there and in place to avoid problems at claim stage. So again, that's a key responsibility for us.
our leniency point, because I see we don't have much time, we always seem to run out quickly. I recently had an accident where someone crashed into me, they were not insured, and I had to lay out an excess, and my no-claim bonus has been reduced in years. I now must pay a higher premium. So my question to you is, why is there no move to compulsory insurance? And then to Edith, I'd like you just to finish the program off by saying, what involvement has your office had about compulsory insurance?
Yeah, Brian, I mean, up to 70% of the drivers on our roads are not insured. So that creates a huge issue for clients that have insurance and have to pay excesses and have their premiums increased. My only advice or suggestion is to capture all the details that you can at the scene of the accident and let the insurance companies try and attempt a recovery. But it's certainly a challenge.
Is it from your office?
We don't really play a part in those types of complaints. We don't measure out liability and decide which of those two parties was liable or anything like that. Unfortunately, we can only ensure that when you come to us, that your insurer has acted within the confines of the terms and conditions, but a recovery against a third party, it doesn't fall within our jurisdiction.
Well, it's good to know something that you've mentioned, which I think the public should know, is that majority of the people that work there have had experience on the other side of the fence. They understand about claims and they understand about the clients and the client's needs. So thank you for that. There's no doubt that with artificial intelligence providing so much more information, it's important that you read your short-term insurance policy. You need to make yourself fully aware of all the terms, conditions, endorsements and exclusions, and the reason for that is to avoid underwriting to be done at the time of the claim. Any claim creates some form of anxiety, and the last thing you need is to be hassling with your insurance over a settlement. I repeat in all our programs on short-term insurance that because you pay a premium for all forms of insurance, you are not automatically covered. Cheaper premiums usually means that there are certain things that you're probably not insured for. My advice is to check your policies very carefully. Again, Edith and Craig, lovely to have you on the team. It's important to note that our program this evening is to provide information and should not be construed as advice. Next week's program will focus once again on financial and retirement planning, and if you need to get hold of me, my details will appear on the screen. I'd like to thank you for watching, and good night.